We are recording. So Doug, whenever you're ready, go ahead and kick us off.
Subbu Iyer, welcome to Insight Jam.
Thanks, Doug. Pleasure to be here.
Well, I'm glad you're here because you are the CEO of a recently well-funded database company. Not exactly a startup, interestingly enough, though you've been funded as if you were a startup. I'm curious if you could just provide everybody with a perspective on the magnitude of the data onslaught that is currently happening, and I think partly the reason why you're receiving funding, given all of what's happening with AI and data in general. I mean, what is the magnitude of the data challenge?
Well, Doug, I think as far as I can tell, data has been growing at a compounded rate of about 30% annually over the last several decades and is forecast to continue the growth. If you look at some numbers, Gartner predicts the database market to be, north of $120 billion over the next few years, if it's not already in the 100 billion kind of range. And then IDC cites that, the global analytics and AI software market could reach north of, $250 billion by 2027. So by any kind of data point that you see out there, data is just growing by leaps and bounds. And most of that data is actually unstructured in nature. As in, that's kind of what's fueling the demand for NoSQL databases like Aerospike, and explains a lot in terms of, what you started the conversation with as to why, investors were so interested in, a company like Aerospike and where we are headed with our vision and our strategy over the next several years.
Yeah. So can you put it into petabytes terms, in terms of what the data, what the amount of data that's happening is? Because I have a hard time processing it. I don't even know how to conceptualize the amounts of data that we're beginning to acquire.
Yeah, I don't know the exact number right now, Doug. Unfortunately, I don't even know if it's petabytes or exabytes or some other factor right now. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm not asking for exact numbers, but I mean, in terms of how does somebody even begin to think about it? I mean, just in general, the conceptual nature of that kind of data. I mean, how does it scale? How do you process it? How do you leverage it? I mean, where can the compute power come from to get value out of it in real time?
I think what we see out there, and Doug, what led to even the founding of Aerospike going back several years, is really this challenge that we see, which is data is actually growing by leaps and bounds, but the compute and the technology is not available to actually take advantage of all the data that is generated within an organization or otherwise at a cost point which is actually reasonable. So we see customers out there and prospects that we are talking to all the time who actually just are able to process 5, 10, 15, 20% of the data that is available to them at any point in time, primarily because one, it's very, very expensive for them to store and process all the data that they would love to do, because more data actually helps them, drive better insight and make better decisions from that data set. And the second is really performance. As we know, in the world of data management, as the size of the data grows, usually performance actually goes down in terms of retrieval performance, latency goes up, and the cost to process that data and store that data goes up significantly. So one of the founding premises of Aerospike, which is built into our architecture, was to actually help customers leverage petabytes of data at a single point in time if that is required, while not breaking the bank from a cost perspective, and give you the performance and the low latency that you demand. So when we talk about real-time data and real-time access, which is where Aerospike actually made its name, we are able to provide customers with the highest performance with sub-millisecond latency, with a hardware footprint that is, 60 to 80% lower than any other solution in the market. That's a game changer for a lot of our customers. So a lot of the conversations that we have with customers, the first call goes like this. It's like, hey, we can do all this. And there's a certain sense of disbelief till they actually see the numbers. And they say, oh, okay, tell me more. And then we walk them through really the unique attributes of our patented hybrid memory architecture, which is the game changer as far as, harnessing all this data that we just talked about, yet not compromising on performance or cost to do so.
So I want to actually take you back in time to when you first got into the space. So what was your first tech job? Do you remember?
My first tech job was a developer. So way back after college, I started as an engineer, coding. And so that's where I started with doing simple information system management coding. And I used to code in C++ in those days, way back. I did a bunch of what was then, state-of-the-art AI in Fortran, Lisp, Smalltalk. I'm dating myself, but that's where it started.
It's good because actually it's interesting. We're tracking what we consider to be kind of the impact of AI at Inside Jam. And one of the things that you hear, and actually the CEO of NVIDIA actually came out and said that basically coding is going to go away, that everybody's going to be a coder and nobody's going to need coders. I mean, what do you think about that as you see AI coming down the pipe and the idea that maybe the junior developer role goes away?
Yeah, I think that statement from Jensen sure scared a lot of kids about to enter college and with dreams of trying to graduate with a computer science degree. I was talking to my wife's nephew who's enrolled in a undergrad in a really good school for computer science, and that was the first question he asked. What kind of classes should I take? What should I major in? So my own perspective is I think it's definitely going to be much easier. Like every wave, it makes life easier for several segments of humanity. So as far as developers are concerned, even now when developers are coding, they're usually actually looking at shared libraries, looking at bringing in libraries which are available internally, blessed internally, or even bringing from the outside, making sure they're secure and so on and so forth, and really building code bases around it. So with AI, you're going to get this much better. So it's going to improve a lot in terms of productivity of building these applications, definitely testing and releasing these applications. So we'll get a lot more productivity as far as developers are concerned, or the entire application life chain is concerned. That means that we're going to need different kind of skill sets from developers. So the more complex kind of inferencing or complex kind of coding that is required will be something that developers will have to build out those skills. There'll be new kinds of applications that will be built out as far as AI applications are concerned. So my sincere belief is that, yes, life is going to become easier for developers as, a lot of other folks. But as with every inflection in technology and every wave of technology that we have seen, some jobs become easier, but then, we move on as humans to do other complementary tasks that really result in, much better innovation and creation over time.
It's interesting because this one feels, so I'm older than you, and this one feels, I was around for the PC revolution, I was around for the internet and mobile computing and cloud. This one feels different. This one feels like it's designed to not create efficiencies or assist as much as it's designed to replace, or at least that's what it feels like to me. And I do worry about the junior developer role because ultimately, with we're very early in my mind in the AI revolution, but once the compute power and the data storage processing can really come up to speed, there's going to be a lot of information work that's just simply going to go away. I mean, that would be my sense, that this is going to be a larger cultural shift than I think people have seen in certainly with the internet and even with the PC.
I think we don't know for sure, I think is my take, Doug, right? I think, a lot of people are, obviously making predictions. It happened with the age of the internet too, right? When it first was kind of available to a broader set of people, it was thought of not being such a big thing. And we know that, right? When the first wave of the internet happened, until people realized how big of a game changer it was. And it changed the way we interacted, the way we behave as a society, the way actually developers build applications. So I think the same thing is going to happen with AI. So there's going to be a lot more automation as far as building applications and coding is concerned. But there'll be new applications and new uses of AI, which we don't even know at this point, which I believe, I always believe that younger generations are much smarter than we are. So they will evolve and they will shift rapidly. It's older people who actually have trouble shifting because we sometimes, get entrenched into our own ways. So I actually think this is going to be a positive influence as far as developers are concerned. Maybe the junior developers, as you cannot call them, will become smarter and, pick up more complex tasks and, better tasks or different tasks to help build the new class of applications that are out there.
So what is an organization that is trying to get in front of the AI revolution? What should they be thinking about in terms of their technology stack as they build out kind of a best-in-class data and ultimately an app landscape?
I think a lot of it is already happening. If you look at organizations which are ahead in terms of building out AI applications and really thinking about the possibilities that AI offers them, both to leverage within their organization and also to serve their customers or offer new services and products to their customers, they're rethinking this entire, stack, if I can call it that, their technology stack. And this happens, again, as we know, with every new inflection in technology. So a lot of the customers that I talk to are really reassessing, hey, what should my infrastructure stack look like for the age of AI? I have built a set of infrastructure that served me well, but is it the right fit for this AI age? What complementary technologies or other newer technologies should I bring on board? Whether it's at the compute layer, at the storage layer, at the networking layer, how much is this, I want to leverage the cloud versus kind of do some of this in-house? How do I make sure I can do this in a manner where, I'm not breaking the bank? Because one of the concerns with kind of AI and large language models that we have seen out there is the, cost. Because there's only few people in the world who can build these large language models, either the cloud hyperscalers or companies with a lot of money at their disposal. So they're going through this entire soul searching and examination. The architects are working with the technologists within every company that I talk to, redesigning their infrastructure to really build new class of AI applications.
And so are we talking, because we are those folks, and certainly you were part of that wave of people who grew up through the internet revolution and have built more than a few new technology stacks based upon all the available technology that's come forward. Do you see it as a rip and replace going forward? Is it going to be that radical that they are going to have to think about it at the, literally at the closet level, where they're going to have to start to rip things out of the walls?
I think it all depends on the use cases and the imagination, right? So if a lot of the customers are reimagining existing applications, So for example, a good example would be, the impact of AI on recommendation engines. Okay, we have a lot of customers and we are part of really AI and data pipelines for a long time with a lot of our customers, whether customers like PayPal, who use us for all their fraud analysis. And recommendations is a great example where it's an existing application, an existing system that will be reimagined with AI and vector databases, because vectors are really well suited for modernizing a recommendation engine, if you will. So it will depend on really the use cases. There'll be a class of applications which will be modernized or reimagined, and there'll be an entirely new class of applications which will come up as far as organizations go through their own kind of discovery process. And those applications will take a fresh perspective and a completely new approach, because they're not tied to the legacy infrastructure and the footprint that you already built. A lot of companies have already leveraged cloud. They are in a hybrid cloud kind of a model. So they look at augmenting those systems. So you can see a lot of the hyperscalers are making it much easier to run end-to-end AI systems by providing workflows, models, vector databases that you can plug in pretty easily with integrations and so on and so forth. So there'll be a lot of augmentation, but there'll be also a set of net new applications which will not be encumbered by legacy infrastructure and legacy technology stacks.
So as a CEO, how do you balance the inclination to want to, maintain what you've built and kind of the culture that you've built, and with this noise that's coming in about how you need to modernize and how do you work an organization, or what would you suggest to an organization that's facing that sort of a cultural moment where it's like, we have all this that we've built over the past couple of decades, we think it's pretty good, but now folks like Aerospike are coming in and telling us, there's all this really interesting new technology out there. I mean, what does a CEO say to its team to be able to consider all that's available to them now while still maintaining all that's been invested in the current systems?
I think, there's two things that you need to think about. One is you start with the customer or your end customer, right? You are serving as an organization, and you say, hey, what can I do better as far as serving the customer is concerned, whether it's from a customer experience perspective or, providing new services to the customer, or expanding my market potential by adding net new services for an entirely new customer segment. So you think about it that way, and, those answers start flowing. So when you think about it that way, let's just say you're thinking about a better experience for your customer, your existing customer. If you don't do it, you know that your competitor is going to do it. And AI provides a lot of opportunity to provide better, personalized, or even hyper-personalized experiences for your customer across every industry. So that's almost, that's almost priority number one. Can I actually, deliver better personalized experiences for my customer? And how do I do that? By leveraging AI. Second, I would think about is, do I have aspirations about really offering new complementary services, either to my existing customer or really to a new segment of a user, because that helps me grow the business? Is there a business kind of case here? If there is, then how do I go about doing that? And the third piece is also evaluate internally, how can I get more efficient, more productive by leveraging AI within the organization itself? So how can I make my my employees more productive by leveraging AI technologies within my organization itself? So different ways to actually think about this and really go about, using AI either within the organization, within the services that you currently offer, or expand the range of services that you can potentially offer to grow your business.
So what do you say to companies, prospects that you're walking through the door, pitching, that have, systems that are working right now and customers that are happy and a business that is growing? How do you present your value propositions?
So we actually like to understand first as to what challenges they're facing, right? What are the problems? Why are you talking to us in the first place? Is there a reason you're talking because you're trying to do something new and you're not able to do that with your existing systems?
And is that the reason why they're talking?
Yeah.
I mean, is that why you find that folks are interested in hearing about Aerospike?
Yeah. I mean, they're trying to leverage AI to actually better their systems of engagement, deliver new systems or new applications. And they didn't know that the art of possible is there until they talked to Aerospike. So when we talk to them saying, hey, you're not limited by the amount of data you want to actually make work. We can actually deliver you the ability to harness petabytes of data at a cost point, which again, as I mentioned earlier, is 60 to 80% less than anything else in the market, yet not compromise on performance or, the low latency that you desire, and, sometimes it's disbelief till they actually go through a POC or they see actually our customer stories and our success stories. A lot of our earlier customers, Doug, in a sense were, early adopters of Aerospike. They saw the potential, they saw the architecture of the product, and they said they didn't start with petabytes of data. They started with small data sets. And when they saw that working really well and said, hey, well, let me now actually increase the usage of Aerospike for new use cases, or even within the singular use case, bring in more data. And that's how, some of our customers who started really, really small are now pretty large users of Aerospike across the board. And it's always innovation that drives kind of these conversations. What Aerospike makes possible is really, new avenues and new ways to think about what's possible with databases and data management in general.
I mean, you've got an amazing resume of working with some of the largest technology firms that have ever existed. Do you see any vulnerabilities as the market is beginning to shift and the landscape is very much beginning to shift? I mean, do you see vulnerabilities with some of the incumbent companies, the large incumbent companies, in terms of their ability to respond to this moment, or will they just simply acquire their way through it?
I think you're already seeing some moves out there. There's already some large companies who are doing a really good job of actually trying to adopt AI and what AI offers within their core set of offerings. The challenge, I think, is AI is going to challenge their underlying architecture. So when I talk about it, right, AI systems, we were fortunate. I say Aerospike was founded before the age of AI, but AI is a significant tailwind for us because AI begets a lot of data, and a lot of data that has to be actually processed in real time. So you have to ingest data, you have to store the data, process the data, and then make decisions on it in real time. And we have been doing this for the last several years across production environments, across branded customers globally. AI is just a tremendous tailwind for us because the platform has been proven, has been deployed, and our architecture is so different that it actually is built and works really well for the age of AI. So we can really fit really well. And when we have these conversations that you asked about earlier with customers, this is what we talk about, saying, hey, think about where you want to be a few years from today. Not just right now, but where are you going to be in a few years from today? How do you architect for success? Not for just, the next 6 months or the next 12 months. What if this new service you're launching is amazingly successful? Have you thought about the implications of that when you're kind of designing the underlying technology infrastructure and the architecture to help launch this new service? These are the conversations that go on. And so when you think about incumbent legacy players or large players, they're trying to bolt stuff onto their existing legacy platform, which may work for small use cases, but it's not going to be supporting the scale, the real-time needs, and the high performance that is desired with these AI systems.
Yeah, it's been my experience, again, being a little bit older, that it requires a lot of the cultural change requires just time, that you end up with the old guard. I remember hearing over and over again when we were early on in solutions reviews days that people just weren't going to move to the cloud. That it was crazy talk that you would move your data to the cloud. That they'd built all these very large cold rooms and that they had control, and the idea that you would move data to the cloud was literally insane. But those folks have gotten older
Yeah.
and have retired. And this younger crew has come along that hasn't seen, anything different than, high-powered software as a service solutions that have enabled their career path. And there is no longer that cultural head trash around the idea of data in the cloud. And I'm curious if you see that as well when you're introducing Aerospike against, I'm sure if you're talking to PayPal and companies like that, you're coming up against some fairly established, significant legacy systems. I mean, where do you find that traction, and what kind of objections do you face when you're having those conversations?
Yeah, you used a good example of the cloud, right? I think one of the successes, in spite of all the objections that were raised with the cloud in the early days, is, when you think about cloud, what played out is, what the user of the cloud desired, or the user of their application or the service, and what was really more efficient or more productive for the builder of that service. In both cases, software as a service was what, as you said, users were used to, the younger generation especially, which grew up in the day and age. And then for builders, cloud was much easier because it was instantly available. I could actually prototype something really fast and prove my concept. When we are talking to customers in this day and age, we see customers who are really being serious about, hey, how do I reimagine the future? Because, who is my competitor is changing almost every day, if not, every year. I'm no longer competing with traditional players. If I'm a healthcare provider or an insurance provider or whatever, my competitor is not another insurance provider. It could be something, somebody who is completely new, could be a cloud-first company who is, providing insurance as a service, if you will. And so they have to be agile in terms of their thinking and, their possibilities. We always see in large companies, large companies don't get a lot of credit, but they're always companies, there are innovators and entrepreneurs within these larger companies. And they're always actually part of this conversation. As we somebody coined the term software is eating the world. I think it was Mark Andreessen. And it's true. I mean, IT and technology is driving the world in every industry that we know about. So, these decisions that businesses are making are made in conjunction with the technologists within these organizations who are looking at, hey, what is the next inflection point? What is the next wave? In this case, AI. How do I leverage it? What is the set of technologies and infrastructure that can help me actually meet the future?
So where does this head? This AI moment. I mean, where does an organization really start to focus in to take advantage of this? I mean, I think there's a lot of companies out there that are confused as to how they're going to take advantage of AI. I mean, where do you see that a story that an organization can hang their hat on around how they're going to leverage AI and why they need new systems?
Yeah, I think, Doug, we built our strategy on really being a provider of a multi-model, multi-cloud, data platform. And we call ourselves a real-time data platform because, we provide sub-millisecond, performance, as I said. And that's played out really, really well. In the early days, we started as primarily a key value store. Then we added documents to it. We added graph to it. And now we've added vector data type to it. And what we see out there is, data is fragmented across a bunch of different repositories. And to bring value or to drive value from all of these repositories, organizations are struggling because my customer data is in one place, my billing data is another place, My operational data is in a third place. And I need to drive customer 360, for example, because I want to really understand, who are my most valuable customers, what services are they subscribed to, and, how am I actually serving them? Can I do better with them? For the other customers, can I offer other services to them, cross-market services to them? So in that kind of an example, what they need is a single platform that can actually bring, these diverse sets of data together to provide a 360-degree view of a customer. And so our vision is actually holding itself really, really well. People are no longer saying, I want, specific databases or data repositories for specific things. That still happens in a lot of cases. But increasingly, we see the desire to do what we call, multimodal queries, multimodal analysis, as I said in an example like a customer 360. So, the first thing organizations need to, think about is really where is the data that is resident. They're struggling with this, but we have a lot of customer examples who have broken through this, where they have actually built an architecture, Aerospike, that lets them, bring all these disparate sets of data together into a singular platform like Aerospike and deliver amazing, services to their customer.
So the diversity of data, or the amount of data that's so dispersed around an organization lends itself to a certain amount of vulnerability. And I'm curious what the security story is around this. So to me, one of the impending threats of AI and you layer in quantum computing is the fact that data is going to be very hard to secure. I would argue going forward, and organizations, in the way that they've evolved, have allowed data to be dispersed in so many different places, and I think one could argue, and one of the dirty secrets of many organizations is that they don't know where all the data necessarily is all the time. What is this? What is the security story that complements the Aerospike innovation story?
This is the same concern that was raised when the cloud was new. People are not going to move to the cloud because of security. So I think we will see a lot of innovation in this regard. There's already companies which are being funded and are rethinking security as far as AI systems are concerned. As far as data is concerned, within Aerospike, we encrypt all the data, in terms of whether it's at rest or in motion. So there are no issues with that as far as Aerospike systems are concerned. As I said, we are deployed in some of the most mission critical systems, whether it's in financial services, e-commerce, telco, healthcare, even globally, and these are all kind of been around for some years, and these are delivering end services. These are not internal systems that our customers are using. They're building their services and offering it to their customers. But there are other things that they also do. So we comply with a lot of security. We integrate with PKI and a bunch of other things. Sign-on systems and public kind of walls and so on and so forth. But even as far as the data itself is concerned, that's stored on Aerospike, it's fully encrypted.
What do you think about the presumption that I have anyway, that data will be effectively impossible to protect in the future, given bad actors with powerful tools and the amount of compute and again, quantum computing, AI, that encryption can't withstand what's coming?
I think there is some truth to it. I think as kind of more systems and more data is available and embedded in different places, the well-funded attackers, if you will try to break into and breach into a lot of systems. But there are also new technologies that are already available, whether that's zero trust designs or data security or assumption that, you are going to be compromised. The question is when, and then, how well are you set up to actually recover and be in operation when you get compromised. So there are different kind of patterns and different approaches that companies do take as far as this is concerned. The security industry has been trying to protect us for decades, and there's always a new threat or a new breach that happens. There's always a new innovation that comes in with every change. I mean, cloud brought in a bunch of new companies and new innovation around securing cloud-based systems and cloud-based applications and cloud-based infrastructure. I think the same thing will happen with, AI, whether that's AI infrastructure or AI apps or, data, which is part of AI systems.
So what would you provide for advice to a company that has a genuine concern about their data vulnerability going forward and just, how they need to begin to protect themselves from the bad actors that exist?
Most of our customers, look at multiple points of, protection, if you will. So they make sure if it's the infrastructure, if, as I said, is the data encrypted when it's stored? Is the data actually, encrypted when in motion? And then you have systems as far as, access to those, privileges and controls in place to make sure access is, properly kind of guarded. And then they also have systems where, they design it such that, they have procedures in place that in case something happens, they can actually recover from it as quickly as possible so that, there is no business downtime. A lot of instances we have heard where companies haven't taken that into account, and they usually have either, a attack that leads to a business downtime, and, sometimes days go by before they can recover and be operational. But I think that's beyond, companies have multiple layers of protection, and that's what they should look at so that, there is protection built into every layer as far as they're concerned. And there's technologies, a range of technologies, along with what we provide as far as the core database is concerned, that are available and are leveraged pretty comprehensively.
So you mentioned your nephew a little earlier about how he was thinking about getting into technology. I have a couple of boys myself who are out in the real world now working. If you could provide some advice for folks that are beginning a career, because one of the things that I think is fascinating, again, that we've kind of gone through, but if you're in your 20s, you're going to need to deal with what's coming from AI for the next 40 years. And it's going to be a fairly radical shift. What advice would you provide to somebody who's just getting started in the world and it wants to stay kind of in tune with all the things that are happening in technology right now?
I think, young people are amazing for, a couple of different reasons. I think, in my opinion, one is, they are innately curious and they're great learners. And I think I see that, across, the set of folks that I interact with. I mentioned my wife's nephew, but also, we have interns and we have an internship program, and we see interns wanting to come and, work at Aerospike. It provides them an opportunity to learn about really the art of the possible in terms of what data management and database systems can do, but also work with our graph technologies, our vector technologies, our other AI initiatives. And they're using that experience to build actual systems, not just learn, of course, build actual systems, and then write about it. So it's amazing in terms of, what the younger generation is able to do, not just learn in a college environment, but then actually come within a company like Aerospike, interact with some really talented people, and they love that kind of experience, and actually be able to build something which they're proud of at the end of the day. And they take those experiences back and, obviously take it back to school and, take those skills back and, hone their journey as far as the rest of the school year is concerned, or, going forward, their career is concerned. It's just amazing. So, I think, anytime new systems and new technologies come, I think, even whether you're young or whether you're old, the more curious you are, and if you can be a lifelong learner, we'll always come out ahead. It's my opinion.
Well, let's talk about your journey, because you said you started out as basically a developer, and now you're CEO of a $100 million funded AI data company. Talk a little bit about your path. I mean, where did you go from being a developer? I know you've been at some very large companies, but how did you see yourself moving through your career to the point? And did you always see yourself as becoming a CEO?
Well, it was definitely not a planned journey. In case anybody has any specific thoughts on that, I would say I started as a developer, but then I was very lucky in my early days to actually go work with customers when customers were having problems. It's very rare that as an engineer, as a developer, you get the opportunity early on in your career to directly interact with customers. So,
And how did you get that opportunity? Was it the company that you were working for?
Yeah, company that I was working for, one of our customers, one of our very good customers, were having a pretty recurrent issue in terms of, what the software was able to do or was not able to do. So, we were trying to solve the problem or understand the problem, and we couldn't. So I had to fly out to the customer's warehouse, and to really see the system in action and try to understand actually what was going on. And so that led to, quite a few visits back and forth. But what it opened my eyes to was early on in my career that, what I was building or what we were supplying was just one piece in a larger system as far as that particular customer was concerned. And that was amazing for me as a young kid, as a young developer starting a career, to able to understand how all these systems come together to provide a outcome that a customer desires. And that actually pushed me to move over, I guess, as some would say, to the dark side. So I moved over to sales engineering, alliances, product roles, marketing roles, and then
was that a conscious decision based upon that experience, you made a conscious decision to seek out a role in sales? Or sales engineering?
I was interested in not so much sales and sales engineering as much as customer facing. And the first opportunity that actually was available was in sales and sales engineering, but then I morphed from there into doing actually technical business development, building, strategic relationships with, some of the early Linux companies, and so on and so forth. And then, came back ironically to a product role, and found it amazingly, challenging and, was very successful. I think primarily because, I'd worked with customers and I was on the outside before I came into a product role.
And was that just opportunistic? I mean, did you kind of, again, I'm curious how you made these decisions. Was it just opportunistic? There was a kind of an opportunity in a product role? No,
product role was something I wanted to do because, I always found it really interesting in terms of, building new products. I believe it's the most complete role that, you can aspire to, because you have to look at several different facets. You have to understand the market. You have to understand, the opportunity. You have to understand the competition. You have to understand, your own strengths. You have to understand sales concerns. So you have to understand go-to-market. So it gives you a really good rounding, a product role. And I was fortunate that, the product role and the mentors that I had encouraged me to think about, even if I was the product manager for a specific feature, to think about as a CEO, as a mini CEO, saying, hey, think about it that way in a holistic manner. What's your go-to-market? Why would our salespeople want to sell this particular new product? How would they be motivated? What's in it that for them? How is the competition going to respond? So that was a very kind of designed, if you will, well thought through kind of transition into a product role.
And how old were you when you did that?
I think the first product role I was in my 30s.
Yep. Okay.
And so I had, quite a bit of experience on the outside before I get into a product role.
So you've been a developer, you'd been on the sales side,
Yep.
now you're in the product side, and your career, in your 30s, that's when you really start to hit your stride.
Yep. And so from a product role, I went on to actually own a portfolio of products and then became a general manager of a multi-billion-dollar business within large organizations. And then, the final piece was really, I did not really understand marketing in terms of, all the new age marketing that had actually come on with digital marketing and other things. So I ended up, in my last role before Aerospike, leading strategy and marketing for a large organization before coming over to Aerospike as CEO.
So there you have it. There's the blueprint. That's the path.
I don't think there's one blueprint, but that's my path.
Well, so how are you liking being CEO?
I'm enjoying it. It gives me an opportunity to actually, take the skills and experience that I've built over this last several decades, and then apply it to a small, fast-growing company. As a CEO, I think I strive a lot to actually set a vision, make sure that we are executing, are able to execute on that vision, and we have the right culture in terms of the organization, in terms of our current culture as we onboard new people. Making sure that we don't lose that culture of the organization. So those are the things that I help drive, and I'm really enjoying what we've been able to accomplish so far.
So with regard to culture, you've been in several different organizations, all maybe had slightly different cultures. Where have you seen, or you don't have to name names, but what have you seen that generates a good culture? What are those kind of characteristics you're looking for to generate that positive culture? And were you at any places where you felt the culture wasn't quite right, and did you have a sense for why it might not be?
I think what I've learned is and which we try to drive at Aerospike is aspects of the culture which are very important are transparency, which is transparency of information, and it starts with me as a CEO. I am transparent with the company on the good, bad, and the ugly. As I tell my team, as long as it's not confidential, I'll share everything with the company because we are all in it together. The second is communication, especially in a hybrid, distributed workforce. Communication is really paramount. So we have several modes of communication. We try to communicate several times using several channels. Especially if folks are remote, it becomes difficult sometimes for them to get the latest and really understand the context behind certain decisions. So it's really important, that communication is central within an organization. The third is really, letting your team take risks and make decisions. And if those don't turn out, that's okay. You can actually learn from those and move on, and go build the next thing. So, but that's important in a technology company like Aerospike, in a small company like Aerospike, or even in a large company, because technology is one industry, as we know, is so dynamic, it's changing, rapidly. Every year there's something new that's coming out. And so how do you stay on this? AI is a great example, right? It's so fast moving, it's very difficult to keep up even in a month. There are newer companies and newer technologies and new capabilities that are available. So really allow your team to take risks. The fourth piece is, respect. It's a team environment. You have to respect every individual. Everybody brings, complementary skills. We have a diverse set of employees, not just in terms of, where they work, but who they are, what their interests are, how they approach problems or conversations. So it's important to respect and understand that, you have to approach with empathy and understand the other person's point of view rather than just be ready to jump in and respond. Another piece we try to encourage is debate and commit. I think good things come from debates. Not everybody is going to agree to everything. So it's important to have a debate, but you cannot have it go on endlessly. You have to make a decision. And then even if the decision is something that was not really your point of view, once the decision has been made, we have to kind of go with the decision and go make sure that it's successful. So there are several aspects here which we try to practice. I've been fortunate, I think, as I said, some of my early jobs in my career, I had fantastic managers. And some of my best managers were people who were very open, very transparent, and really understood the value of a team and really building that culture within that team, if you will. Not just the organization, but within the team that they were a part of. So I've had a fantastic career, fantastic companies that I've been a part of, and that's what I've tried to learn from, see what works for me, and bring them to Aerospike.
Well, this has been an interesting conversation. I very much appreciate the time. It's always good to get perspective on things outside of just the main product points. But it sounds like Aerospike is going to have a good run, and best of luck with the funding and the growth and the opportunity in front of you. It's in my mind maybe the third major significant cultural technology change that I've seen in my lifetime. This next 20 years is going to be absolutely amazing. And so best of luck as you continue down your path, and very much appreciated the time today.
Thank you, Doug. It's been a pleasure. Thanks for the conversation. I have to admit it was pretty easy going, but kept me on my toes in terms of the questions and the topics that we explored.
I was wiggling around a little bit there, but we eventually got home.
Yeah. We are thrilled about the opportunity that this new funding offers us. It helps us to accelerate innovation in several different areas, the cloud, AI, and so we are building out our graph and vector offers, and it's being very well received by the market. So once again, thank you. Great conversation.
Solutions Review is inviting you to join InsightJam.com. What started a few years ago as a social media event to celebrate enterprise technology has now grown into an always-on tech community with live events, discussions, videos, vendor showcases, and industry resources. Our vetted roster of experts, thought leaders, and analysts are sharing tips and tricks daily. So if you're interested in getting involved, join the long list of companies and brands who have already participated by visiting InsightJam.com today.